Hey everybody, it's Lavender Town, and today I want to talk about 5 problems only artists understand. Before I get started, just a quick reminder, I will be at SoccerCon this weekend. If you're going to be there, don't be afraid to say hi, and I'm having a meetup at 2 p.m. on Saturday outside the exhibitors hall. The first problem I want to talk about is the strange condition where when you have something really important to draw, or you have something you really want to draw that you think is going to be great, and your hand just decides to quit on you and suddenly you forget how to draw. This is something that happens a lot to me, and I feel like this is something that non-artists really don't get, because I think that a lot of people, when they see that you can draw a certain thing, they think that every time you sit down to draw, you would be able to reproduce it at the exact same quality, looking the exact same way. Whereas in reality, at least for me, there's no consistency to how well I'll be able to draw every day. It's really sort of a thing I just have to hope is there when important stuff is going on. And it may not be super easy to see from the outside eye, but I think a lot of artists are so familiar with their own work and their own style that when they see the mistakes coming in, it's really frustrating. I don't know if it's the pressure or what, but it seems like whenever there's something I really want to turn out well, I have these days where like I'm just making mistakes everywhere, and I can't seem to draw things that I'm usually not gonna have trouble with. Like suddenly I'll be unable to draw a face properly, or I'll be unable to draw like an animal or something that should be very easy to do. And basically you just feel completely betrayed by your own hand. It's like you can't get it under control. You can't put out the kind of work that you know that you're capable of, and it's just super annoying. I don't know if you guys experience that too, but yeah, I'm not sure if the pressure just gets to me or if sometimes your hand just needs a break, but usually the only way that I have found that can solve this is just to do your best and put out the work anyway if you have to, or otherwise, if it isn't something that has an immediate deadline, just give yourself a break. A lot of the time that's what I need to do, and usually when I come back to it, all of a sudden I can draw again. Also, this can sometimes be a case of where you need to warm up, or you haven't been drawing a lot lately, and all of a sudden you actually do forget certain techniques and things that you used to be good at. So that's not a big deal. But yeah, this is something that drives me completely crazy, and I really wish these days didn't happen. This second problem is such a common one to complain about that I almost felt like leaving it out of the video, but on the other hand, I feel like since almost every artist I know has dealt with this at one time or another, that I couldn't not include it. And this is that feeling, that creepy feeling of being watched when you're drawing in public and trying to deal with the onslaught of questions that comes when you're trying to draw in public. A few questions come up over and over, and they are the worst. Yeah, it's really, I mean, it's great that people are curious about your drawing and your work. You don't want to discourage that, but it definitely feels weird when you're just trying to relax and draw at like a coffee shop or at school or wherever you're at, and suddenly you are aware that someone's like hovering around your desk or over your shoulder, and it's just like, first of all, it's just kind of unnerving because you don't usually have people hovering around you like that. It seems like when you're drawing, people feel like more okay to like get behind you and watch you than they would if you were like on your Facebook or working on something else, you know. I'm not really sure why that is, but it really does make people feel more like they can like hang out behind you, ask you questions. And again, this isn't a totally bad thing, but I think a lot of artists, myself included, are a little bit introverted, and so it's a little bit unnerving again, yeah, when you're trying to work. So the worst questions that bother me the most are, can I see your sketchbook? Because I hate saying no to people and I hate confrontation. And even worse than that is the classic, is that anime? I don't know if this is a problem for everyone, but I feel like every artist who's ever been even slightly influenced by anime gets this question constantly when they're drawing. And it's a little bit annoying, especially when your style doesn't really look much like anime at all. Pretty much anything that has big eyes, regardless of where it looks like it comes from, a lot of people will just assume automatically that it's anime. And this might be mostly my pet peeve, mainly because I used to draw just straight up anime, and now I'm trying to do, for a few years I've been doing sort of a mixture of my own style and that anime influence that I had for a while. So whenever I hear "is that anime" from behind my shoulder, I always feel a little twinge of sadness, because I feel like my style isn't coming through and it isn't looking unique to the outside eye. But I wouldn't take it too personally. A lot of the times people who ask these questions are not super into cartoons and not super into like parsing apart art styles. It doesn't necessarily mean that your art is not looking the way that you want it to look. The next problem is massively self-inflicted, so it's kind of a unfortunate one because you can only blame yourself, but it's when you come up with an original character or original design for something. It could even be like a prop or something like that in a comic or something that you're gonna have to draw over and over again, and you just go nuts on the detail, and you want it to look super ornate and beautiful, and every time you draw it you're just like loving all the little details, and you keep refining it and making it look more and more ornate and beautiful. And as you're working on it, it never once occurs to you that you're going to have to draw this over and over again, and eventually your own design will drive you insane because it's so hard to draw and it's so hard to repeat. This is something that I used to run into all the time back when my art, I think a lot of people see it as very simple now, and it's true. I do try to keep it relatively simple, and this is because of this habit that I used to have where I would torture myself with overly complicated character designs, and it would make it pretty impossible for me to keep up with comics or anything like that because they were such a big time investment to draw each of these characters. And there'd be like patterns on their outfits and all these elaborate details and complicated hairstyles and all these like headpieces and weird things all over them, and it just made it so difficult to continue working on whatever I really wanted to work on. And I just realized that I really wanted to tell a story, and instead I was treating it like it was just for a character design, so I eventually had to give that up, but I do look back and I'm like a little sad about it now sometimes because I love to make these really complicated, really ornate illustrations and character designs. And obviously this is not a problem if you're just doing a one-time illustration. In fact, it can be really great if you're the type to keep adding more and more and more detail. That can be really fantastic. It's just a problem when you're going to have to draw it over and over again, and you'll be cursing yourself for making such a complex design. Now, some of you are going to be saying, well, I don't care if it's hard. I want to make a complicated character design. And there's some ways you can get away with that where you won't be like pulling out your hair trying to draw them over and over. And basically what you want to do is, if there's a complicated pattern, you want to draw the pattern by itself, and sometimes you can copy paste it into panels and then you won't have to draw it over and over again. And sometimes you can just get used to drawing a character no matter how complicated. So there's, you don't have to give it up necessarily, but I would say don't make them complicated for no reason, because you will really regret it when you're on your like 100th page or whatever, and you've been drawing them for panels and panels and panels. The next problem I want to talk about really only has to do with digital art. So this is mainly something that only digital artists have to deal with. But it drives me crazy, and it's actually the inspiration for this whole video. And that is I don't understand what goes through a software developer's head where they think that the same programs in the same suite, like the Adobe Creative Suite, for example, why would the shortcuts for the very same things be different in programs that are in the same like family? It just drives me crazy. So basically you can change any keyboard shortcut you want in like Photoshop and Illustrator and all of those programs. And for the most part, the keyboard shortcuts are largely the same. So like Command C is copy, Command X is cut, Command Z is undo, usually. And that usually is true for all of the programs. But it seems like, just to mess with you, like 20% of the keyboard shortcuts that you need and get used to in Photoshop or whatever, when you switch over to, let's say, like Adobe Animate or Flash as it used to be known, instead, when you use a very common keyboard shortcut, it'll do something really bizarre and weird, and it's just like, I just don't understand why this happens, and then you have to go in manually and fix the keyboard shortcut so it's the same. But it's just so strange. Like, I don't get why they would make the keyboard shortcuts just slightly different, so you feel like they're all going to be the same, but they're actually not. It's really a weird pet peeve that only digital artists would really, if digital artists who are using the Adobe Suite would understand, but I just had to get it off my chest. It was driving me crazy. The last problem I want to talk about is one that has haunted me, especially ever since I got back from art school, and I actually don't know how to fix this one, so I'm definitely willing to take advice if you guys have any for me. But basically, it's that unbelievable sense of guilt that you feel every time you do something fun, like a video game or something like that. Like, I went to Orlando and did the whole Epcot and Universal thing recently, and same thing with I recently got a new Switch and I've been playing that a lot. But every time I pick up my Switch to play, or I think about doing something that's not productive, I feel this creeping sense of guilt, like there's someone standing behind me telling me that I need to be drawing more. And literally after 1 to 2 minutes of doing the fun thing, I start feeling this way. And it really sucks, because if you're trying to take a break, if you've been working on something like a video or a comic page for a while and you want to take a break, it completely ruins the break because the guilt makes it not fun anymore. And I think it mostly came after I went to art school, because I was so busy all the time that I got used to feeling like I never had time for anything but productive stuff. And it's actually gotten so bad that even while I'm working on a video or something, I'll still have this guilty feeling like I'm supposed to be working. And I'm not actually sure what that's about. Literally, even as I am working on something, I'll feel like I'm supposed to be working, and it's super weird. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you suffer from any of these, and I hope to see you at SakuraCon if you're going to be in the area. And yeah, thanks for staying all the way to the end, and have a good day, and bye! Big thanks to my patrons, including Scott Peterson, Weeb, BB Dave, CatoCat, Christy Stewart, Painamel, Elizabeth Albin, Cal Pompone, Okamore, Matthew Kunke, Blep, Sergeant Pendulum, Shiori, The Artsy Moose, Lena Christine, DeSweet12, Aaron Sawicki, Superpixel, Taka, Elizabeth Spooky, Lachlan MD, Mystic, Enzo Jobert, Yoboy ST, JJ Jade, Lebleblable, and Addy Visual.